Welcome everyone to the February 22nd City Council meeting. Welcome to everyone here and at home. We're going to adjust our schedule just a little bit tonight and get the consent calendar out of the way, and I think we have a very quick action item, and then it's all community forum time. So I'm going to ask that Councilor Taylor to put the motion on the table.
Okay.
The consent calendar.
I move approval of the consent calendar.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please indicate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. None in opposition. It passes. Thank you. Next item up is the sale of the Willow Creek property. City Manager, you want to say something about that?
I was going to have Stephanie say about 27 seconds worth.
Starting right now. Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. I just wanted to briefly review the high points of the AIS that you have. So the city purchased the Willow Creek Land Bank site in 2001. This area did not develop in the way that we thought it would over time, and there were some associated infrastructure for the issues associated with the site that ultimately made the site really not that suitable for affordable housing development. In 2013, the city listed the property with the city's contract broker. We received an offer from the adjacent property owner, and so we're asking you tonight to approve the sale of the property pursuant to the purchase and sale agreement that was signed by the city manager. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do you have any questions? Councilor Brown?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just have a couple questions. It's more for just to elucidate a little bit more for the people that are here and perhaps watching on TV. I totally approve of the action. The property was purchased with HUD funds for affordable housing because the city at that time thought that it wasn't developable in its current condition, but you had expectations of access roads being built and further development that would support housing in that area, because there's really not a lot around there. There's no, grocery stores or there's not even any convenience stores or anything. So, and now the time period is up and it's time. So HUD wants the money back, or you to use it on another project, and the only way you can do that is to sell the property to somebody else. So that's kind of the gist of it.
Correct.
Is my understanding. Okay.
Yes.
And that's the adjacent property owners want to purchase it, and they're happy with the purchase price. It's the same price the city paid for it, essentially. And so
it's very close.
Oh, we're really close.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
true. It's very, very, very close.
Yes.
The difference is basically meaningless. So just out of curiosity, I'm curious. Does the purchaser have plans for building housing in that area? Not necessarily affordable, but just a regular development of apartments or single-family homes, or?
I do not have a specific knowledge of what the plans are, but I know that they have been considering a number of different options for that property over time. I think the purchase of this site makes some of their other development plans more feasible, and so it will help to create a sort of more complete developable site for the property owner.
Okay, good. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, you want to put the motion on the table?
Sure. I move to approve the sale of Willow Creek property.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Okay. All those in favor, please indicate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and none in opposition.
I think George. I vote yes.
Oh, you're here, George. I'm Councilor Polling. Sorry. Were you there for the other vote?
No, I missed that one.
Okay, so that's 6 in favor and none in opposition. Thank you. Glad you're here. All right. So now we're going to pass in the candy, and then we'll.
Thank you.
Yes. Public forum. We'll have public forum now. Public forum is an opportunity for individuals to speak to the City Council on any city-related issues except for those items which have already been heard by a hearings official or are on tonight's agenda as a public hearing. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak. When you come to the podium, please give your name, city of residence, and for Eugene residents, your ward, if known. The timer lights indicate the time you have to speak. The red light indicates the end of 3 minutes. Please feel free to use 1 minute or 2 minutes if you can say what you want to say in that amount of time. We have 45 people signed up. So, Josh Scove, 46 people signed up. First up is Josh Scove, followed by Coriel Ridley White.
Joshua Scove, Ward 1. Good evening, councilors and mayor. Thank you, as always, for your service. And hello, as always, to Aria and Jasmine watching at home. I'm here tonight as a former Sustainability Commission chair and as a community member, and especially in my capacity as one of the peer reviewers of the technical work performed in support of the Climate Recovery Ordinance that you looked at in work session. This is really a comment on the work session. I'm here to share some thoughts about goals and what to do with them. Just 2 comments. Comment number 1. Make sure as you deliberate on the Climate Recovery Ordinance that you do not water down your science-based goal, however difficult or impossible it may appear. I understand if there's trepidation about proceeding with the goal that seems challenging or even impossible to reach. The goal is so daunting that we may even be feeling like we're setting ourselves up for failure. For context, though, some history. When the Sustainability Commission advanced to council the goal of 50% fossil fuel reduction by 2030 years ago, it was widely discussed as quite ambitious, perhaps even a stretch goal, a goal that provides a sense of direction but is likely beyond reach. And yet, as you heard from your climate and energy analyst tonight, as you have heard several times, we're roughly on track, despite population growth, despite the absence of aggressive federal or state climate policy. Eugene's emissions from fossil fuel use are falling gradually, not quickly, but in line with that goal. So let's not prejudge the viability of difficult-sounding goals. In short, draw on the best available science to maintain the legitimate urgency of action and keep the 350 goal as your star to navigate by. Comment number 2. Regardless of the goal, focus relentlessly on the best actions that you know will make progress toward that goal and that achieve other objectives along the way. Instead of worrying about exactly how to achieve any specific goal, such as the goal, instead focus on identifying and advancing all projects and initiatives that would move us toward the science-based goal or any similar target that requires significant changes. You heard from Matt McRae that we have a plan, our Community Climate and Energy Action Plan, that's really a long menu for carbon reduction action items. We have not come close to exhausting that menu. More to the point, I'd remind all of us, there are many climate actions that will be cost-effective for the community. Let's pursue them. We have many barriers in current policies or procedures to pursuing cost-effective climate action. Let's lift those barriers. And let's keep looking for the overlap with major objectives that we share as a community, especially human health and social equity. I'll communicate more of that offline and in subsequent sessions. Finally, to acknowledge the questions from councilors earlier about our role in the bigger picture, the discussion really reminded me of a recent headline in the satirical paper The Onion. New report finds climate change caused by 7 billion key individuals. As a community of 160,000 of those key individuals, let's continue to do our part in leading the way. Thank you.
Coriel Ridley White is next, followed by Donna Riddle.
Good evening, councilpersons. My name is Coriel Ridley White. I'm in Betty Taylor's ward. I live in Eugene. Tonight we heard from the city and from Dr. Rice about the idea of a 350 carbon budget and a lot of the science that's behind it. I thought the discussion was good. I thought there was a lot of really tough issues starting to be fleshed out. And clearly the 350 budget in paper is going to be bleak for us. But I think we need to divorce ourselves of the notion that if we can't meet this budget, we shouldn't even adopt the budget. It misses the point. The true failure is what we and basically everybody else has been doing so far. And for us to continue doing the same thing and using the same benchmarks and using the same modalities would just be to perpetuate that failure. So if the percentage reduction model isn't working, if the scientists are telling us it's not working, even when the city is telling us that we're meeting those reduction percentages, then again, to me, it's time for us to do something different, something radical, something fundamentally that's going to change how we view this whole dilemma. I also want to make sure that we're not going to change the idea of 350 in the budgetary model. To do that would be just to fall right back into the same trap we've fallen in before. We need to lead the way on this and show that even if It's not possible right now that this is the way we need to start thinking about it as a city, as a state, as a nation, as a world. Basically, we need to model the model, and there's power in that. If we can adopt this model and put it forth, that in and of itself is a success. And that's just how I want us to think about this. Thanks.
Thank you. Donna Riddle is next, followed by Lori Jones.
I have already stated my preference for,
Introduce yourself, Donna.
Donna Riddle, Springfield, Oregon. I've already said that I'm in favor of maintaining Broadway Plaza or Kesey Square as a public space, as an open space. During the work session, I keep hearing people talk about affordable housing. I'm definitely for affordable housing. I went to the first public information session by the developers who want to do the 7-story project. There was a person, an employee from Sykes, who is the biggest employer downtown, and that person asked, could two people working at Sykes afford to rent an apartment together? And they were unable to answer that question. Now, if a couple making $20 an hour can't afford to live in this new 7-story apartment building, how affordable is that? I think we need to build affordable housing, but not there. I also heard, okay, if it's not a park, we can't use park funds. You all have seen the amount of energy by people who appreciate the space as an open space. I don't think there would be any problem raising money from the people who love Kesey Square as it is to make some improvements like tables and benches. I think it could come from donations. You know, I'm just a volunteer at Occupy Medical, but we've been operating for 4 years just on donations. And I think the donations could make Kesey Square a wonderful place. Thank you.
Lori Jones is next, followed by Gordon Levitt.
Good evening. I'm Lori Jones. I live in Eugene, Oregon. And thank you tonight. I wanted to present to the city and citizens of Eugene, Oregon. I'm writing for myself and my family and for our community. To express Kesey Square simply stays as it presently exists and is intended, as it's irreplaceable for our present, past, and future literary, visual, and performing arts, and is a safe, open gathering place for all people, caring, sharing for each other. Just over 30 years ago, I moved to Eugene because I read and loved the descriptions in Oregon and Kesey, sometimes a great notion. I was pregnant and single. I came here to listen to him read at the Holt Center at noon for free. 7 years later, I graduated from the U of O with a BS in biochemistry. I worked 20 years for Molecular Probes Life Tech, took them to Invitrogen, and took them to a publicly owned company and stepped down. I've worked on the Emerald Valley Board of Consortium. I'm here to simply say my children also support this. They're all adults. They're all U of O graduates and students. They have 4 or 5 jobs within 2 blocks of the square. One of them's on the board of directors for Saturday Market. The other one managed Voodoo Donuts for years. And I just wanted to say that we support keeping Kesey Square as an open, curfew-free space for all people. I frequent Kesey Square. It's safe and welcoming. It's full of creative energy. I talk to people and read excerpts from Kesey's books to the kids who do not even know whose back they're leaning against that statue. I was going to keep this to myself, but I chose it to share it after listening to the council. I'm recovering from a massive brain injury. I had to learn to walk and talk again after I hit my head 2 years ago. Kesey Square. I have to wake up every day and figure out where I am, what day it is. I know where Kesey Square is. I've been safe there. I've made friends. I read to the kids. They've taken care of me. I've cared for them. And all my kids work within 2 blocks. We need Kesey Square. I'm in favor of win-win-wins. But as it is, it's protected me, the walls from the wind. And my daughter has brought coffee at night to the people there laying on the streets and ensured their safety. And we support what y'all are doing for our city and hearing everyone.
Thank you. Gordon Levitt is next, followed by Fred Rollig.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. My name is Gordon Levitt, and I'm a resident of Betty Taylor's ward. I'm currently finishing my law degree and a master's thesis on local strategies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, so the concept of a 350 ppm carbon budget is something that I think about frequently. I want to encourage you to give serious consideration to adopting the 350 budget for 3 reasons. First, I believe that it will aid in the achievement of the climate recovery ordinance goals that have already been set out, such as achieving carbon neutrality in city operations and facilities, and the 50% fossil fuel use reduction by 2030. Second, I think that adopting the carbon budget mechanism is an easier framework to communicate about the city's goals to the public. When you think about emission reduction goals that are tiered to 1990 and Kyoto and 10% by this or 30% by that, it gets complicated very quickly. I think that the budget, on the other hand, is a metaphor that people can understand easily. While we may only have a couple of years left at current emission rates before we may exhaust our 350 ppm budget, exhaustion of a budget merely means that you're in debt. As a society, we're familiar with the concept of debt, and what's important with that is whether we're using the debt as an investment for the future, or if we continue to slide into old habits that are not good for the future. Finally, I want to encourage the carbon budget to be adopted because I think that it will catalyze the private sector in this community to meet the challenges of the future. Already, with the sustainability planning that the city has done, we have thriving businesses that are providing models for a very different future. Bike Friday, Green Energy Corps with the microgrid project, Archimoto with an envisionment of a different form of personal transportation. And I want you to really consider the outsized influence that a city of this size can have. No one thought that Blue Ribbon Sports was going to become Nike, one of the most globally recognized companies. But that started here in Eugene. This is a community that can take ideas and catalyze them to the next level. I encourage you to lead efforts to re-envision sustainable development at the city level. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Fred Rollig is next, followed by Kim Rollig.
This is exciting. I don't have a voice. I have vocal dysphonia. What I'm going to say is arithmetically correct, and my arguments are predominantly mathematical. These numbers are right. In a career spanning 25 years, I've performed on the streets in downtown areas of 150 cities, in 22 European countries, plus cities in Brazil, Nicaragua, India, South Africa, New Zealand, Martinique, South Korea, Japan, and Australia, and in the Oregon Country Fair in 2011 and 2013, the Saturday Market in 1989, and in 2011, the city of Eugene paid me to perform in Kesey Square. I had a voice back then. My career arc was thus. I got out of the military and took a military hop on terminal leave to Frankfurt when I was 20. I slept rough and hitchhiked from city to city for years, learned to juggle, to do street performing. I ended up with a multiple awards-winning comedy show, and I was being flown around the world to various theme parks and street performance festivals. In total, I've been to cities in over 60 countries voice live downtown. The way I don't understand the details of city bureaucracy and politics, and you do because your livelihood depends on it, to that degree, I understand cities on the street level, and you don't because my livelihood depended on it for 25 years. I understand it for the money. I and my colleagues, many of whom you can meet at the Oregon Country Fair and the County Fair, need to know where to perform to get the best and biggest crowds, to make the best and biggest shows. Kesey Square is the pitch. That's a street performing term for the place to play. For two reasons. One, passing trade. You put your advertisement for your event in the Eugene Weekly, 30, 50 people come. In the park blocks, because there's no people passing by, it stays 30, 50, maybe grows to 60. In Kesey Square, you get bigger crowds. You're up to 150 by the end. It's called drawing a crowd, or getting your edge in street performing parlance. The other way you can know this is also arithmetically. Of the non-Saturday market, which is 8 hours a day from April to October, of the non-Saturday market events that were free for the people, how many have not been in downtown? How many have not been in Kesey Square? And people don't remember. Studies have shown this, and street performers will tell you, you get paid for the high point of your show, not for the laughs per minute. And shopping, it doesn't make for a high point. High-fiving the Oregon Duck. I'm out. Go Ducks, everybody. You know what I'm going to say.
Kim Rolick is next. Kim. Followed by August.
Thank you for having me. My name is Kim Rolig. I live in Eugene, Oregon. I'm a sixth-generation Lane County resident. I attended Buena Vista Elementary, Monroe Middle School, Sheldon High School, and the University of Oregon. I spent a lot of time on the mall as a kid, and it was really hard when the mall was demolished because I didn't really see what the problem was at that time. And I'm thrilled with what's going on in downtown in the evenings now. It's a huge relief, and it's wonderful to see a vibrant, alive, financially viable downtown Eugene. I really appreciate it, and I would never have voted to open that street, but I'm really happy with the result. But I agree with what Councilor Brown said earlier. Homelessness, addiction, and disenfranchised youth are not going to be solved by removing our only effective public gathering place in downtown Eugene. And when it's gone, it's gone. So I think that the proposal to develop Kesey Square into something private is extremely short-sighted, and it removes a lasting legacy that we have in Eugene that when an event is happening is extremely functional for the reasons that Fred Rolick just said. And that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. August is next.
You want to speak here?
Followed by Isaac Paris. Go ahead, August.
So, I was really wondering why this is all coming together. Like, I feel like we don't need another store in Kesey Square's place. It's the only square in town, and I've been having a lot of fun there. Once I went there with my cousins, and I got to, ride a bike to power a stage's battery. One of my cousins graduated in the Army, and math college. that's all I need to say, but I just really want Kesey Square to stay a good public place.
Thank you very much. So this is what we do. Isaac Paris is next, followed by Jeff Geiger.
Hello, thanks for your time. My name is Isaac. I moved to Eugene in 2015. I live here to go to grad school. I went to Pacific right downtown, and for lunch breaks, I'd go and sit in Kesey Square. And after I graduated, I decided to stay because of the people and the arts community here. And the phrase, "meet me by the Ken Kesey statue," has been said by thousands of people, right? Meet me at Kesey Square. That's said all the time. And that sounds a lot better to me than meet me in front of a commercial building, input brand name there. Like, meet me in front of Sizzle Pie or Voodoo Donuts doesn't sound the same. And eventually we'll hear, meet me where Kesey Square used to be, and then we won't hear anything at all, right? It's not a field space. It's a space that's enjoyed and utilized by lots of people. I drew portraits and played music there last Monday, and I've enjoyed performances I've seen there. I really enjoy that anyone can set up a table or put up their wares or play some music. And it's my understanding there was a council that said some time ago this space should be reserved for the public, and I think their opinion should be honored and respected. And let's have some faith they were intelligent people who knew what they were doing. They didn't say, let's leave it a public space until someone makes us a nice offer. So thanks for your time, and thanks to everyone who will speak, because this is what democracy looks like. Thanks.
Thank you. Jeff Geiger is next, followed by Nathaniel Mitchell. Or I think it's Mitchell.
Mayor Piercy, councilors, thank you so much for your time. My name is Jeff Geiger. I'm in Ward 1. And I'd like to speak about Kesey Square. I've worked for years, just recently left a position at the Oregon Community Foundation, where I was the program officer for the Southern Willamette Valley. I worked at 440 East Broadway. For much longer than that, at 164 West Broadway, I've been the artistic director of the theater group, community free theater group, No Shame Eugene. No Shame Eugene, all comers, doors open, anyone can come in, anyone can play, never a cost to be at No Shame, and we're open from 7:30 p.m. till 9:30 p.m., so we have lots of different people walking our doors at all times. 440 East Broadway at the Oregon Community Foundation, we make $80 million in grants a year and have a corpus of $1.5 billion. You can guess that I see very different people in the different walks of life that I have, and those two places are located on Broadway, and about halfway between them is Willamette. And that is where the intersection of the people I see at the foundation and the people I see at No Shame Theater mix and meet and have incidental conversations that they wouldn't otherwise have. And I think, for my experience, many experiences, when something is happening in Kesey Square, when Rap City was there and there was a big line and there were tables and umbrellas, people love it. When there's a concert, when there's an event, people love that. So this is my plea. Let's try to make more happen in the square before we get rid of it. There have been efforts, but the city had, 3 events, I think, in 2014, 9 events in 2015. I think we can do better. I think we can do more. And from what I understand, there's no dedicated FTE to managing the square. I don't know who at the city is responsible for programming that, if it's cultural services, but from my understanding, there's not a person tasked to do that. And I think if we had a place, a person, whether it's through the city or somewhere else, who was managing the square, making it easier to program, someone to go to, I think we could pull it off. And this is an artistic, imaginative community, and people would volunteer. I, right now, will volunteer. I've been a grant writer for years. I brought in about $4 to $5 million for this county, mostly for schools. I would write grants for free to help support Kesey Square and keeping it a public space. And I'm not saying in perpetuity, but I'm saying let's give it a real shot. Let's really try and pull this off. And I think that's about my time. Thank you.
Nathaniel Mitchell, followed by Cynthia Kokos.
Hello, and thank you for listening to me. My name is Nathaniel Mitchell. and I am a longtime Eugene resident, a local homeowner, and I also own and manage my own local small business. Sorry. As a youth, I was kicked out of my fundamentalist religious home for my sexual orientation. And because of that, I hitchhiked and traveled to dozens of U.S. cities looking for a place where I might fit in. And I found all these cities to be grave and sad places, dedicated to commerce and cars. And I was harassed by the police based solely on my appearance and my backpack. When I arrived in Eugene in 1996, the pedestrian mall was a wild bohemian scene of street performers, fire dancers, and traveling musicians. The downtown area was riddled with all-night cafes that closed at 5:30 a.m., or oftentimes at 4. You could spend a little money and be off the streets for the night hours. I had not seen anything like this and would not until I traveled to Europe. The community of travelers connected me through Kesey Square to a van leaving from the farmer's market, where I was able to work my summer away at a local farm. I also, through the community at Kesey Square, found a mechanic who was willing to work and repair my vehicle that I was living in and traded that for work I gave him. The vehicle and the skills and connections I made from Kesey Square and the pedestrian mall were what I was able to begin my career with and have made me a local employer. Now, you've received a proposal from the extreme right. Sell off Kesey Square. We'll split the profits. So you react with, well, maybe we'll sell off part of it, or maybe we use the proceeds to fix up the park blocks. And I have a proposal from a little farther to the left. The pedestrian mall was what drew me to the city with a soul, and a soul not only dedicated to cars and commerce. And I would propose that we immediately close Broadway and to all automobile traffic, plant some trees, some awesome big old trees in the center, and bring back the pedestrian plaza. It's ready for it. The downtown is totally ready for it now. It demonstrates that our city is for the people and not just for cars and commerce, and that we cannot be bought by a handful of money, and that our people and our public matter. And so that is my proposal, is that you stand up and have some courage and bring the pedestrian mall back, because that's what brought me here. I wanted to settle in a city that was built around people and built around education and fun and music and arts. And that's what brought me to Eugene. Thank you.
Cynthia Kokos is next, followed by Christy Murray.
Good evening. Cynthia Kokos, and I got a new address. I wrote it down to remember, 65 West 30th Avenue. So now I have a new representative. I like and so you don't have to be young to care about the public spaces. Some of us older people, we need a place to sit. I'm still hobbling around, but I have friends that have walkers, and we get downtown, and not everybody wants to eat out or can afford to eat out. I can, but not everybody can. And wouldn't it be lovely if there was some benches there and some shade, and if there was water, and you could sit with your friend, and if you did feel like getting coffee, you could go get some and bring it back over. It's a free place, and it should be a welcoming place. It should be a shelter for us when it's hot. There should be some shade. There should be some place to stand when it's raining and we're meeting somebody and not sure what we're doing. There could be the performances we used to have regularly. I would go down. There could be plants and things that are like natural air conditioning devices and natural shelters from the elements. There could be a place that when my 3-year-old great-grandson arrives, we could be in a relatively quiet place where we're thinking about what we might do, or when we've gotten out of the library. People say there's a lot of public spaces down there, but when you move slowly, I was just drawing a map for myself. I was trying to see where were all these public spaces that I could have been with my friend Shirley when we looked around and she got out of the car. That was the place I saw. I think what we need here is some energy, some imagination, and some determination. You can tell by my sound, I didn't grow up here. If New York City, a few people could take back Central Park from drugs, violence, mobs, take it back, It runs from 59th to 110th. It's a lot of area that can get pretty dangerous a lot of the time, and they took it back. Let's not take things back. Let's keep them.
Christy Murray is next, followed by Vicki Webb.
Hi, I'm Christy Murray, Ward 2, and I've lived in Eugene since 1973, and I agree with what she just said. Please don't get rid of Eugene's last remaining open and public space in the heart of our downtown Eugene, Oregon. Like Betty Taylor and George Brown, I wonder why we are having this conversation. Please honor the deed restriction that was found, saying that this space is to remain open and public and for the people forever. Look at the other cities who value and beautify their open spaces. Go ahead and reimagine the space, paint wall murals, and light it. It doesn't have to stay ugly. Peg Morton, rest in peace, a former local activist, activated for the Ken Kesey Square to remain open for people to be able to eat lunch, people watch, or just rest. Lastly, save the space for remembering one of our local heroes, Ken Kesey. Save that legacy and be a part of it. Otherwise, what's next to be taken from the people? The Wayne Morris Free Speech Plaza? Thank you.
Vicki Webb is next, followed by Connor Salisbury.
My name is Vicki Webb, and thank you, Mayor Piercy, City Council, City Manager, for listening. I live in Eugene. I've lived here since 1989. This is the second time I've come here to speak to you. My wife and I wrote the following. Public space is a literal commons, the common ground where people come together as friends, neighbors, and citizens. Kesey Square is one of the dwindling number of places upon which our community, democracy, and society depend. Public spaces are starting points for all communities. In our culture, the commons has always been a meeting place and therefore has a direct impact on the evolution of the human race. Taking away our commons impacts our freedom of expression. You can't organize a rally or circulate a petition in a privately owned shopping mall. Celebrations, festivals, memorials, and art events happen in Kesey Square, and our lives are enriched by these expressions of community. Environment, especially in a community of this size, is a delicate balance of interests. Economic interests change daily, but the results of your choices will be long-standing. The well-being of our citizenry and the long-term impact of changes like those proposed for Kesey Square depend on intelligent decisions and good stewardship by people like you. The wrong decision could permanently alter the landscape of Eugene in a most devastating way. At the very least, adequate time for study of possible outcomes is essential. Weeding out travelers, elderly, youth, the disabled, and people with limited funds to create a better citizenry is just short of eugenics. Keep Eugene weird and save Kesey Square.
Connor Salisbury is next, followed by Sue Saralupe.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Thank you for your time and service. My name is Connor Salisbury. I'm from Ward 2. I'm in favor of, at least for the time being, leaving Kesey Square a public space. I'm a little concerned with the process. It seems sort of opaque to the public. I'd like maybe to see a proposal for leaving the space as is, trying to improve the space as it is, wait along with the developer's proposal, and maybe some other proposals, and looking at the cost benefit of each of those separate options before the public is locked into choosing any particular option. I'm part of a Facebook group who occasionally meets on every full moon and has a bicycle tour around the city in the evenings. And we visit many different night spots, but the gathering point that we always agree upon is Kesey Square. So there's a lot of invisible benefits, I think, to commerce for leaving it a public space. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sue Lupe is next, followed by Sapra Marcroft.
My name is Sue Lupe, and I am in George Brown's ward.
Speak up, Sue.
Okay. Sorry. I am not interested in the proposal for changing Kesey Square at this point, except to add a few things to it. It seems very clear that taking more public space from our public would hinder the progress of our community. And I've heard some people mentioned that having poor people inhabit a public place makes it uncomfortable for other citizens, poor people or unhoused people. And I would suggest that those citizens with discomfort take advantage of diversity training, which is offered through the year. In fact, Occupy Medical is sponsoring one of these diversity trainings next month. It's at the McNeil Riley House. Last Thursday of the month, we'll have more, and I will announce that later. Everyone is invited. We need more public space, not less public space. We have an increasing amount of population condensing in the urban areas, and in order to maintain mental health and encourage a sense of community, we need spaces that people can gather and stretch their creative muscles. Consider the pocket parks in San Francisco that are tucked into alleys and onto former vacant lots. Items that we need for public space include public bathrooms, which also have hot and cold running water in the sinks and flushing toilets, secured sharps containers in public restrooms, parks, and the Eugene Airport. Really, it doesn't have a secured sharps container for diabetics before long flights? Come on. We need water fountains. We need trash receptacles in public space, more of them, please. We need public charging stations. As you've noticed, everyone has a cell phone. It needs to be charged in order to keep people in contact with their loved ones and other important contacts. I appreciate seeing more dog do bags and disposal sites. We need more trees. Seriously, this is actually a matter of public health. I appreciate seeing more public parks planted with native species. I'd like to see that continue. We need more public garden space. We need to divorce ourselves from the habit of criminalizing homelessness. A realistic look at our economy reveals that poverty is increasing in America, and we need to stop taking our anger at our country's poorly constructed economic choices on those that are the first to pay the price for these choices. I have noticed that more fencing is going up to keep people from gathering under bridges. Fencing is expensive. My husband is a contractor. I know what materials are used. The fact that this funding is being funneled toward building a fence instead of building a bathroom sends an unmistakable message to the public.
Thank you. Sabra Marcroft is next, followed by Stefan Streck.
Hi, my name is Sabra Marcroft, and I reside in the Bethel neighborhood. First off, I sent each of you and City Manager John Reese a very short email this evening, so you should probably find it tomorrow. And in it were two links, one to a story about the current state of homelessness in Portland and what's being done about that, and one about a small part of what Seattle is doing to deal with the issues and stresses of homelessness. So I would appreciate it if each of you would take a look at that and see what you think about what's being done in other places. I've very much appreciated the effort to look at removing unintended barriers to people who are unhoused. I understand that at least one or two of you believe that what we are doing in Eugene does not add up to criminalization of the homeless. And I appreciate that point of view. I would encourage the city to seriously consider asking the advice of the Federal Department of Justice on this matter. There's a city in Arizona that recently proposed and passed an ordinance against camping in their city, and they were concerned about whether or not that ordinance would constitute criminalization. So they submitted their ordinance to the Department of Justice for review. And I did not hear what the result of that was, but they did pull the ordinance. And it seems like if that's an avenue that's open to the city, it would save a lot in court costs. Just simply to find out for sure whether 4.815 constitutes criminalization or not. And so I would really appreciate it if you would think about that and get back to me. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Stefan Streck is next, followed by David Reynolds.
Good day today. My name is Stefan Streck, and I have lived in Eugene for 17 years now. I moved here from Worcester, Massachusetts, I moved here from Athens, Georgia, and I was born in Worcester, Massachusetts, and I am still running for mayor this year. So far as I know, in the last polls, I have secured a solid 1% of the vote, which is highly encouraging because all these hippies in town keep complaining about how 1% keeps deciding the votes for so long now. So that's pretty encouraging. But so far as Eugene goes in Kesey Square, I'm kind of surprised that the city is still targeting Kesey Square as a building project when there is an abandoned building behind the Kiva, which is larger. It's the old oxygen bar. They've got parking spaces. That's a building that needs to be renovated and could be used for housing or a store, whatever you want. It's an eyesore, really. That's a problem that needs to be dealt with. And targeting Kesey Square is a waste of time. There's legal obstacles to this. It was deeded to the people of Eugene. And what does it say when the city is willing to negate the rights of the collective people of Eugene? We've got other issues that this could affect. U.S. law is set in precedence by previous settlements. And so what does this say about the people whose property rights are being attacked by the EMX project? What does this say about the property rights of the people who are being attacked by the South Willamette project? And what does this say about the individual rights of the people of Eugene? I think that this is the sort of thing that people need to be asking questions about, and I'll be looking into this for the next couple, however long this goes. It's going pretty good. Thank you.
David Reynolds is next, followed by Sue Wolling.
Hello, my name is David Reynolds. I've been a resident of Eugene for about 30 years. I'm a design professional. I've lived in this city long enough to remember when the fountain on Broadway actually flowed with water. And I have some comments. Location, location, location. There is no substitute for that location. Being centered between movie theater, restaurants, it's in the center of the Art Walk. You cannot replace that by building something similar a few blocks away. It's the location. What you're proposing doing is destroying something really special and unique to replace it with something ordinary. We've got plenty of apartment buildings. The similar plazas in this town, including Wayne Moore's Free Speech Plaza and the plaza at 13th and University Streets on the corner of the university campus, are not expected to have public events every time there's a sunny afternoon. You have created a standard for Kesey Square that is not met anywhere else in the city or anywhere else in the South Willamette Valley. It is not realistic to expect there to be public events every single sunny afternoon. So the site is wonderful at what it does. it's not realistic to expect it to be more than that. Thank you.
Sue Wolling is next, followed by Joella Ewing.
Hi, I'm Sue Walling, and I live in Ward 7. In fact, I'm lucky enough to live in Eugene's most walkable neighborhood, downtown, and it's great. For my neighbors and me, it's easier to walk or ride a bike to the grocery store, restaurant, coffee shop, city council meeting. It's easier to walk than it is to drive, so that's what we do. Living in a walkable neighborhood makes it just a logical thing to do. And it happens to also be healthy and inexpensive and be good for the environment. So I got lucky. I was able to buy a condo in a walkable neighborhood. But Eugene really doesn't have very many walkable neighborhoods. And we really don't have very many choices of types of housing. We basically have apartments and single-family homes. That's why I think the South Willamette Special Area Zone is such a good idea. It starts to offer options that we don't currently have. There are a growing number of people for whom the housing options that are available in Eugene really just aren't a very good fit. For instance, there are a lot of millennials who are sort of like me, actually. They're single. They would rather own a house than rent one, but they don't need 3 bedrooms. They'd rather not have to drive everywhere, and they really don't want to spend their weekends doing yard work. There are also couples in their 50s. The kids are grown. They want a smaller place, and all they want to do is be able to walk to the ice cream store with their grandchildren. And then there are young families who just may be able to buy that first home if they can get away with a single car and if they can maybe convert that garage into a unit that they can rent to a university student. So these are just some of the people who would really benefit from the housing options that would be available in a walkable neighborhood in South Willamette. Now, zoning doesn't make anything happen. It's a good thing because we would have some monstrosities down there if we allowed the current zoning to really be built out. So zoning doesn't really make anything happen. It just helps us shape redevelopment toward the future. It simply helps us shape redevelopment that does happen. It lets us look toward what we will need and want in the future, rather than being locked into what used to work. If we adopt the recommendations for the South Willamette Zone, we can look forward to a future with a few more people, a few more choices in housing options, a little more walking, and a little less driving, and maybe a little less controversy, I hope. Thank you.
Thank you. Joella Ewing's next, followed by Linda Reynolds. Joella.
Hello, I'm Joella Ewing. I'm from Ward 1. Someone was quoted in a recent article in the Register-Guard that there are 2 options for Kesey Square. One, to leave it like it is, the other, to build an apartment building. Anyone who believes this has an incredible failure of imagination. A month or 2 ago, I mailed a letter to each of you with pictures of pocket parks in New York City with planters of flowers and trees, tables and chairs for enjoying food from nearby restaurants, waterfalls along the back wall, and they even had tall spiked rolling gates to keep people out after hours. I'm not sure that that's a good idea, but it is something that we might consider. The waterfalls would be too expensive, I know, but all the other features are doable. This open space has been too important to the public for a long time. It's a relief from feeling walled in by a tunnel of buildings, and it's a location for local outdoor events. I agree that there are problems that must be addressed, but please use your imaginations, think outside the box to keep this place available for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Reynolds is next, followed by Babe O'Sullivan.
Hi, I'm Linda Reynolds. I'm also from Eugene, and I also support Kesey Plaza. And I think that having more tables and chairs would be a good thing, and having food carts out there also, again, when they were there, I liked those. If there was a way to do artwork on the walls or having like living plants growing on the back walls would be nice. But I think that that space has been such a bright spot in the town that having just another building there would be almost offensive at this point. I mean, it's a convenient place to meet with people. It has a way of, well, you have more light, and it's just, you don't have that same kind of gathering potential that you do. Like if you wanted to meet up with people, it's not the same. You'd have to go all the way over to where the Saturday market is, and it's just not the same convenience. Because if you're downtown, it's really more, that's where you are. You're in Kesey Plaza, and I like it when they have events there too. And we need to have more events. And I agree with the gentleman earlier who said that we need to have somebody managing that and making more events happen, and possibly looking for grants to make things like that happen. I think that that's a really good idea, and not an impossible idea.
Thank you. Babe O'Sullivan is next, followed by Anya Dobrovolsky.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Babe O'Sullivan, and I live in Ward 1. In contrast to what you've been hearing recently, I want to share a different perspective on the South Willamette Special Area Zone, a perspective of support and encouragement. Compact urban development is not just a conceptual ideal plucked from the aspirations of Envision Eugene. It's the practical reality we should be working to achieve. A 20-minute neighborhood sounds catchy, but it also captures the spirit of what many Eugene residents value: vibrant, well-designed hubs of commercial and residential activity that are affordable and accessible to a diverse set of current and potential residents. South Willamette has been a challenging test case, and much is being learned about how to engage business owners and residents in a productive process of visioning and change. It's been bumpy, and we can do better, but please don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. The zoning proposed for the special area zone and the conceptual plan on which it's based has merit. I encourage you to listen to the concerns being brought forward by neighbors and find ways to improve the proposal in response to those concerns. But it's important to stay the course, do the hard work, and make the day-to-day choices that build toward this future. There are many of us who want to see these changes in our neighborhood and throughout the community, and actively support these efforts. Give us the opportunity to make this a successful 20-minute neighborhood full of walkable destinations, a wide range of housing options and business services that meet everyone's needs. That's the kind of neighborhood livability we want. Thank you.
Thank you. Anya Dobrovolsky, followed by Joseph Newton.
Hi, Anya Dobrovolsky, Ward 1. Mayor Piercy, excellent job with my name. Thank you. I'm here tonight to share my support for the South Willamette Special Area Zone as well. There are a lot of reasons I like the plan: walkable, bikeable streets, lower carbon emissions, and a Willamette Street where I want to linger and support local neighborhood businesses, among many other reasons. But most of all, I support this plan because I want better housing choices. My fiance and I are interested in buying a home, but the type of housing that we want and many other Gen Yers and millennials want barely exists in Eugene. The majority of housing stock for sale in Eugene is single-family homes, which don't suit the lifestyle that we want to continue. On the weekends and in the evenings, we like to volunteer at the tool share in the neighborhood, ride our bikes and go hiking, visit with friends, hang out at coffee shops, play music, work on art projects. We are not interested in having a large yard to maintain and pay for, so that leaves us in a conundrum. We can, one, keep renting and live on a landlord's terms for the rest of our lives in Eugene and never really feel like we are making a home that's ours. Two, we can buy a home that doesn't suit the lifestyle that we want to lead and get burned out, or have a house that's not well maintained that doesn't contribute to the neighborhood character. Or 3, we can move to a city with better housing options, like so many of our friends have done. What will keep us here is having housing options like cluster cottages, townhouses, courtyard housing, etc. It's that missing middle of housing that we hear so much about. I hope you'll consider the needs of younger residents and future residents as you move towards making a decision on the South Willamette Special Area Zone. And I also, since I have a little bit of extra time, I just want to say that I keep hearing a lot of we don't need to grow, or can we have a conversation about do we want to grow? And I just need to say I've lived in Eugene for 10 years and the population has increased by more than 10%. So growth is happening and we don't have a choice. So we really need to think about that in our planning as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Joseph Newton is next, followed by Esteban Vollenweider.
Okay. Joseph Newton and Whitaker. So I'm sort of wondering what happened. Last time I was here, and the remonstrance, I heard basically that council hadn't taken up anything on the issue of Kesey Square. It was almost like it was an issue that was off the table, and I started to actually feel a little silly about getting all exercised about it. And then I come into the work session tonight, and it became very clear to me very quickly that there are at least a couple people here who already have pretty settled ideas about win-win solutions that involve covering over that square. And I'm just wondering how the hell we got from point A to point B. It's disturbing to me as a citizen. I feel a little bit betrayed in terms of public process. Kesey Square, and oh yeah, that was the other thing that was even more disturbing, I think, is that people already had it worked out how it was okay to betray the trust of a donor. How it was okay to just ignore, find some loophole around an essential clause of a land grant. We still have buildings on the U of O campus. We still have buildings that are named for goddamn Klansmen because the U of O feels bound to those century-old land grants and their conditions. The Kesey Square one is much more fresh, much more recent. There is a reason that that square was meant to be kept forever open to that public. And you have heard that reason in the testimony that you've heard throughout this evening. It has come through again and again. The role of a town square, the open town square, is essential in our civilization. It's essential to how we're bound as a community. And it seems that some of you find it real objectionable, a certain portion of the community that is drawn to that square. Well, that is one thing that will happen with the public square as a place open to the community. It will be a magnifier. It will shine a light on certain aspects of the community, and yeah, some of the ills of the community will come forth in that context. It's a mirror. You don't break the mirror because you don't like the reflection. You use the mirror to address.
Thank you. Esteban Vollenweider, and after them is Cameron Fox.
Hello, council people, Mayor Piercy, John, good to see you. My name is Esteban Vollenweider, and I have 3 addresses, all in Ward 1. I am the owner and operator of 2 downtown businesses. Atlantis Downtown is a collaborative office space spanning over 3,000 square feet at Broadway and Olive, and we double purpose as a website development firm. Third Ocean builds investment software that allows Pacific Northwest real estate developers to market their investment opportunities internationally and raise investment capital online. We're working with a Portland developer to raise $9 million, and we're closing in on a contract with a big regional firm as well. I pay over $5,000 per month just to exist downtown. I say these things just to establish some credibility for the following statement. Downtown Eugene is poised for a thriving future, and we all know that. However, there are complex obstacles between today and this future that we have all worked very hard for. Firstly, we need more working class housing in downtown Eugene. Thank you for electing to revive MUPD with the much needed student housing exclusion. Since then, at least 3 building owners have begun plans to build a combined 11 stories of apartments within the next 2 to 5 years in central downtown Eugene. And personally, I hope to get the contracts to raise that investment capital for these developers. Secondly, we need to find a problem or a solution to the so-called vagrancy problem in downtown Eugene. Just today, I was studying for a FINRA license, and I was unable to concentrate because there was multiple dogfights occurring right outside my office above Broadway and Olive. I'm accosted several times a day for change, drugs, and whatever else. My building was broken into 4 times in the past 6 months. I want to expand my business, but I can't lease out office space that is surrounded by brawling kids, drug use, and animal abuse all day, every day. These kids directly hurt my businesses, and I'm not the only one. I feel confident in stating that both of these matters, housing and vagrancy downtown, have a role in the idea of building in Kesey Square. But bluntly stated, I don't think that's the logical choice when presented with the information. Don't get me wrong, I support building in downtown and undergoing initiatives to confront vagrancy, but there are other, better solutions. This is a complex issue that needs to be addressed swiftly, otherwise we're going to lose these opportunities to Portland. I've already discussed moving my businesses to Portland or Seattle if we don't see improvements in a year. Our lease is going to end, and why renew? I implore you, please listen to us. There are better solutions than building in Kesey Square. Let's build a bright future for downtown Eugene together the right way. Thank you.
Cameron Fox is next, followed by Karina McWilliams.
Good evening, City Council. I'm Cameron Fox. I live in Taylor's Ward. I'm associated with the group EG350, and I'm here tonight to push 2 agendas. The first being, as always, the enforcement of the Climate Recovery Ordinance, which is still as relevant this week as it was 2 weeks ago. The second agenda item I'm pushing tonight is the increased funding of the Pedestrian Bicycle Master Plan. According to the city's greenhouse gas inventory of 2007, Eugene's largest producer of greenhouse gases was transportation, which accounted for 58% of all greenhouse gases. The fossil fuels spouted out by cars could be greatly reduced by an increase of bike path and bike lanes. The expansion/increased funding of the master bike plan would help reach our goal of a 50% reduction of carbon usage by 2030. Thanks for your time, and in conclusion, please increase funding for the pedestrian/bicycle master plan.
Thank you. Karina McWilliams is next, followed by Shiona Martin.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Karina McWilliams. I live in Ward 3. As always, I'm here on the behalf of the EG350 Club at South Eugene High School to encourage action on the Climate Recovery Ordinance. I want to thank the City Council for any movement so far concerning the CRO, but I also want to give a reminder that while all action taken is valuable, the window of time in which that action can be effective is closing very quickly. It cannot be understated how time-sensitive the climate crisis is. There are many things that Eugene can do in order to meet the carbon reduction levels standardized by the CRO. For example, the provision of clean energy infrastructure, like the Bicycle Pedestrian Master Plan, would both save the city money and comply with CRO requirements. We youth are responsible for many of these emissions through transport to school, sports, and other activities, and so transportation is of particular concern to us. The youth of this community want to take part in emission reductions through bicycling, walking, or choosing the bus, yet we are constrained because of poor infrastructure. Despite the reputation of being bike-friendly, Eugene is not nearly as safe as it needs to be for widespread youth transport. Because of that, many families continue to drive on a daily basis. Given safe and convenient infrastructure, many would choose to walk or bike to school or activities instead. The people of Eugene know exactly how exigent the climate crisis is. They worked incredibly hard to push the CRO through, which is over a year and a half ago. The CRO is a legally binding contract, and citizens are waiting on their city officials to uphold what is widely known as some of the most proactive climate legislation in the nation. We remind you that this is our future that we are talking about. Climate disruption is not some distant or obscure threat. It is the reality we are fighting every single day. Time is running out for us. Please do or continue doing everything you can do to ensure that the CRO is fully upheld and enforced. Thank you.
Thank you. Shiona Martin is next, followed by Rhea Bierschuk, it looks like.
Good evening. My name is Shiona Martin, and I live on Hendricks Hill. I am also with the EG350 Club, and I am here to encourage immediate action on the Climate Recovery Ordinance. So far, we youth have been encouraging the City Council to move forward and make a change in this community because, as Karina was saying, transportation is a huge contributor to Eugene's collective carbon footprint. Eugene developed an outstanding pedestrian bicycle master plan in 2010 through an extensive community public process. For example, the measures in the plan would allow us to take part in reducing emissions. We want that plan implemented. One of the most impactful actions the City Council can do right now for the CRO is to simply fund this plan and prioritize it above auto transportation products. The Beltline expansion project, which costs many more millions of dollars, is moving forward while the pedestrian bicycle master plan is lagging because of inadequate funding. That makes no sense, and it will just drive emissions up more. We think it's ludicrous to put more money into expanding roads for vehicles, thereby increasing carbon emissions, rather than spending the money on a plan that would measurably decrease carbon emissions and allow citizens throughout the city to partake in the effort. Walking and biking will not happen unless there's a convenient way for it to happen. The city has a great plan, and the citizens are expecting it to be implemented. Parallel with the CRO, an enormous amount of citizen effort was put into creating this plan. We urge the City Council to prioritize bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure before any more funding of the Beltline expansion. We urge the City to consider this plan while advancing steps on the CRO. Please uphold the Climate Recovery Ordinance. The climate crisis cannot wait. Thank you.
Rhea Bierschuk is next, followed by Zandi Zinke. Rhea? Rhea? Okay, then it must be Zandi.
Hi, I'm Zandi Zinke, Ward 1. This is my daughter, Zoe. Since she's here, skipped her swim lesson, kindly to come. I'll use an example from her to speak about the importance of art in public space, what Kesey statue offers, I don't think its potency would be the same if it weren't a public square. But a little bit ago, I was talking to her about how she had not two living grandfathers, just one. And she said, "No, we have another grandfather." And I said, "We do?" And she referred to the statue. I also want to take the bit of time I have to suggest that you be wary of the information that you are closest to. We heard, I'm not clear on all who talks on the city staff, but the opinion of what the attorney's position would be on overturning the deed. If you read the papers, there are other attorneys who say that there would at least be a suit to be had and that it would require adjacent property owners' consent, etc. I've been in multiple lawsuits and won them, and one of the ones I won, I had to go to 6 lawyers before I could find one that would support me. Lawyers are all going to argue for an interest. Along with that, I hear that Mayor Piercy, you, in a letter to Christopher Michaels, Kristen Deb Michaels, you wrote that one of the developers is a good person. And I prefer not to believe in good people and not good people at all. I think we're all people. But with that, I just want to, I don't know in what capacity you were speaking, but you were referring to him as one of the developers. And what I have seen from the developers is an unethical bullyism in their proposal. We have here Jeff Geiger, who has offered for free to write grants for Kesey Square. The proposers, the small development team, have 2 architects. They're building maybe some of your offices, not all of your offices, apparently. Did they offer any? I mean, they had one solution. You know what rhetoric they put out? The verdict is clear. That was before the discussion even started. So when we talk about good people with the implication of less good people, let's look at the actions of the professionals as well. I went to their pitch. I had the microphone grabbed from me when I said, my question was, what qualifies as workforce housing?
Thank you. Peter Graticelli is next, followed by Tamara Miller.
Hi, I'm Peter Graticelli from Ward 9 of Eugene. I read a book on psychology recently talking about this theory that, I scanned like the first 2 pages of a book about psychology. They're talking about like this idea that one of the greatest sources of self-actualization is playing a game in your life. Like imagine, the typical game that is played so very commonly these days is the game of personal advancement of your personal career and profits for you, and maybe extending to your family and possibly to your church congregation, or even. But now imagine if we played a little different game together. Some of us, who maybe that game isn't working out so well. Maybe the American dream's not working the way it used to be, as some occupiers were thinking a few years ago. And what if we played a game together instead, like a game to make the whole world a better, happier place for like all of the living things that we can detect with our naked eyes. To begin with, maybe even the bacteria and viruses someday, right? They could chill too, stop eating each other. So, we might, luckily, this square, so yeah, we can imagine now perhaps together what kind of world we would like to live in, and maybe it would look more like the world of the Native Americans like a couple hundred years ago, before people from unhappier places abroad showed up and ruined the party. Back when people used to like camp out and grow food and not cause climate change together. So the square is a very helpful place, given it's right in the middle of the city, and just like in the middle of the dance floor, the most sociable people are bound to gather. So it is that some of the most sociable people are bound to gather in the downtown area of a city. It's in the middle, and Kesey Square is right in the middle of this incredible flowering mushroom of healthy human life, one of the last ones that remains on this planet where most of the indigenous have been removed. And so even more fortuitous than its existence is that it is about to be quite threatened in its existence, may no longer be a thing soon. So this is like galvanizing us, and to recreate what the natives had. We might have a movement of people that like camp out and grow food. I'm one of them, and I invite you all to come to Grassroots Garden with me tomorrow.
Thank you. Tamara Miller is next, followed by Kimberly Gladen.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm here to speak about in support of the Parks and Open Space Administrative Order making all the parks in Eugene tobacco and smoke-free. I support that ordinance, and I commend the city for joining the ranks of Willamette Lane and other cities around Lane County in considering making the parks and open space smoke-free. I realize that this issue is not before the mayor and city council at this time, but I do understand that you've taken an interest in this subject matter, and that's the reason I'm here to speak today. I understand that the ordinance does, or the administrative order does not include the park blocks, but I would like to state that my opinion is the park block should be included. That is one of the parks that's listed in the City of Eugene Parks and Open Spaces. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Kimberly Gladen is next, followed by Sarah Jewell.
Hi, Kimberly Gladen. I live downtown. I would like to talk about also the same subject. I believe excluding the park blocks from the no smoking and the rest of the blocks is discriminatory to those who live downtown. It's a very small park. It's hard to get away from smokers in that park. Not only that, but it's surrounded by automobiles and gas fumes. And I think it's even more important that that park gets listed as non-smoking. Smoking contributes to air pollution, health issues, and I really believe that those of us who live and work in the downtown have a right to clean air in our park. I believe that child we heard spoken, and every child in this town has a right to clean air, and excluding the park blocks, I believe, it's a slap in the face to me that you would give all the other wards, their parks, fresh air and make our park a smoking zone. Also, I would ask that Kesey Square, a very small public space, also be made no smoking. That child we heard from today also has a right to clean air. I think damaging our health by allowing these parks and open spaces like Kesey Square to be excluded and to be an area where people can puff up all they want is a detriment to our town and a detriment to our planet. It feeds global warming. You might not think one cigarette makes a difference, but when you add up all the billions of cigarettes being smoked on this planet, it's a giant smokestack. And I believe strongly that it also contributes to the detriment of our town's health and well-being, not to mention the cigarette butt pollution in both places. Those cigarette butts end up in our rivers and streams, and as you know, it's not only damaging to our wildlife, but also the bees in our community. And maybe you guys don't care about the nicotine in bees, or you don't care about the pollution, but I do. Also, I'd like to point out the gentleman who spoke about Olive and Broadway. I'm going to suggest the rest of you and Kitty make another tour of Olive and Broadway and take a good look at what goes on down there. I've seen people openly dealing drugs. I've seen cars pull up, lean out and go, "Hey, dude, you got something to sell?" And the guy goes, "Yeah, go on over to the alley behind Horsehead. I got plenty to sell." If it's that evident that they are shouting across the street with drug sales, then yeah, I think you really need to do something about it. It's a detriment to our youth. You worry about homelessness? A lot of homelessness is caused by drug and alcohol use because people ruin their lives to the point where they can't get a job because they're so high all the time. And I don't believe that homelessness is diversity. The moment you call it diversity, you have a reason to keep diversity by keeping people homeless. It's a tragedy. People need help.
Thank you. Sarah Jewell is next, followed by Karen Dahlia. Sarah Jewell. Okay, Karen Dahlia. Followed by Matthew Uke.
Thank you very much for letting us be here and sharing this space. My name is Karen Dahlia. I've lived in Eugene a little over 11 years. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California, and I left there immediately after almost a lifetime. I came to Eugene, originally came to Eugene about 35 years ago, and it seemed like it was a small town. It was charming, there were places, and a lady who came to Hollywood where I was living. Her name was Rainbow Lady. I don't know if any of you remember her, but she wore tie-dye, and she went by the name of Rainbow Lady. Anyway, she told me to come to Eugene, and I finally did. I was homeless for 3 weeks. I stayed at the Mission. I didn't actually have any friends on the street at that time, but I've seen people come and go. I've seen hordes of teenagers come to Eugene looking for Mecca and be kicked out very rudely, and I've seen the homeless being abused, and, you know, I've seen a lot of that. But the thing about Kesey Square really disturbs me. I've been a musician, I'm an artist, I've been prolifically blessed that way, but I've only been a musician for a short time, and I was asked by the Red Caps a couple of months ago that they said that it was not allowed to make electronic music or to make, I have a bass in my pack, an amp in my pack. Now they don't hassle me, but if I were to actually stand in front of a store, I can understand how they would not appreciate me making music. And I'm just one of the many musicians and artists in this town. This town is filled with creative people. I went to the city council, to a council person's office. I had to wait, and I left. When they were building, they tore down the Peace Health building. I thought to myself before they did that, why don't they do something for the community of the homeless? And that was very important to me. I don't know. I don't know why I didn't pursue it. I was only one person, I thought. So, you know, I see other people. I know we care about the city. It became, 35 years ago, I was told Eugene would be like L.A. in 30-something years. And unfortunately, I see that change. It breaks my heart. The congestion with the traffic, the way the homeless. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew Uke, followed by Gwendolyn.
Hi, my name is Matthew Uke. I'm a resident of Ward 5. I'm here to speak yet again on the importance, I feel, of having a public communal space. I remember bussing by the vacant pits, filling with water downtown, going to school. But I always just walked by, then went to the fountain, though that was probably a little earlier than that. Sorry. Anyway, I've been there. I've seen, I love what is happening downtown. The economic revitalization is phenomenal. The problem I see is that it's a lot of high-tech specialized fields that is not approachable to many Eugenians. As someone had mentioned earlier, Sykes' representative said that a couple making $20 an hour could not afford a home in that new apartment building. How many people do we have in Eugene that work at Sykes? How many people in Lane County? And if that's one of the major employers downtown and people there that are working full-time can't afford housing, how is that workforce? How is that affordable? And so building another edifice, an arterial clog of concrete on something that should be the lifeblood of a community, the downtown center, is not a way to open it up to Greater Eugene. If that is what people are concerned about making it more welcoming, as folks have been talking about today in the Southwest Willamette Zone, creating these pocket communities is rad. Finding communities and neighbors is rad that you can agree, identify with, collaborate, and build stronger from. But if we keep focusing on that and then make a different zone in downtown that folks don't want to come into because they don't live there, I see that as a great disservice. As opposed to keeping it open, creating a space for year-round programming. I heard someone mention we need to put a bicycle cop station down there. Well, why not a bike share program? How much crime comes in Eugene from just simple property theft? And we could solve that, bring people together, and create a more sustainable model. I just want to encourage and ask for you, if any decision you make, to keep it open to the public and a free space.
Thank you. Gwendolyn's next, followed by Jason Lieberman.
Hi, my name is Gwendolyn. I live off Highway 99 in Eugene. and I'm probably going to be getting on your guys' nerves before this thing is over, because I'm going to keep coming back, and I'm going to keep talking about keeping Kesey Square open. And I want to touch on the deed restriction that was recently discovered. That deed restriction is like a promise to the community. That space was very much intended to be used, and it goes against what people have been saying, that it's just a remnant. If that deed for that specific property has that restriction on it, I mean, they had to think about that when they put that into place. And I think that that promise to the community needs to be kept. I also want to mention that I keep waiting for the hordes of people that want a building there to show up, and I don't see them. I keep waiting to see tons of emails. I mean, emails, I wouldn't see the emails. Letters to the paper, I don't see them. The letters coming into the papers are in support of keeping the space open. So I feel like, as the people that get to make this decision, if you decide to sell the space, you need to at least be honest and say that you knew that the community didn't want the space sold and that you just didn't care if that's the way you go. Because we've spoken. It's very clear. We keep showing up and we keep saying we want that space to remain public.
And next is Jason Lieberman, followed by Kristen Bardis. Jason. Kristen Bardis. Followed by, I think it's Wyatt.
Oh, there's right there.
Good evening. My name is Kristen Bardis. I live in Ward 2 currently, and I really hate public speaking, but that's how important it was for me to come here, is that I'm doing this anyway. I felt that some of the voices I've been hearing in the press about the Kesey Square discussion have dismissed people like me who support Kesey Square, so I just wanted to share my experiences and tell you why I think it should remain an open public space. My husband and I moved here 11 and a half years ago, and we lived downtown on Broadway at the Broadway Place Apartments for the first 5 years, and it was terribly depressing. We spent a lot of time walking up and down that street, and we tried to enjoy what things we could, but it was very, very depressing, the lack of stores and coffee shops and restaurants. And so we were pretty excited, although it was after we moved, unfortunately. We were pretty excited when places started to open up there. I was there on the first day of many of the openings, one of the first Voodoo Donut customers, one of the first Barnlight customers. As soon as my baby was born 6 years ago, we started taking walks in the stroller downtown. Now my 6-year-old likes to ride a scooter around downtown. He drinks herbal tea with me at Townsend's Tea. He eats ice cream. He climbs on the public statues. We enjoy it down there. We are big cheerleaders for a thriving downtown. We love what's happening there. But a key part of a thriving downtown is a public square in a city center. It's been like that for ages and ages in successful cities around the world, including ones I've lived in. So I would just like to say that please, please consider people like me and all these other people here who appreciate downtown, who love downtown, and who want to see Kesey Square become a thriving space and not another apartment building. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm having some difficulty reading this. It looks like it's Wyatt, and I can't, the last name.
Wyatt McCord.
Yeah. And then Scott Landfield.
Hey, I'm Wyatt McCord, live in Eugene, Oregon, and I feel that we need to save Kesey Square and to keep it public. In doing so, you can be attentive and mindful and ensure the space achieve that its intended potential. Doing this, Eugene makes progress in fulfilling its own potential and the potential for its citizens and its guests. And it's been an open space. I feel like it should stay that way, like it states in the deed pretty clearly. And one of the things about it that I love is I don't want to go sit at the places downtown. I like getting something there and then walking over to Kesey Square with my nephew and walking there, sitting down with him, telling him about Kesey and all the different things and just enjoying the space. And it's not that just it's a free public space, it's also a memorial for me and a lot of people that I know that personally knew him, and it's like just taking that away is like really disrespectful and just ignoring the fact that it's supposed to be a public space and it needs to be there. And one second. And I'm not against growing downtown or building apartments or anything like that. I see all these deserted buildings that are just abandoned, that are ugly. Why can't we build there something and make that nice instead of making something beautiful another ugly building where people could, when there's tons of buildings that are downtown that have been completely abandoned and there's no use for them right now? Like, why do something with a place that is perfectly fine? Because the reality of it is if you build another building right there, it's going to make it more congested at town. There's going to be more people there. And it's not going to make the homeless people go away just because you put a building there. It's unrealistic. And there's so many other ways to fix it. I'm not saying don't change the square. I'm not saying it needs to stay how it is. I'm saying there's so many ways that we could change it that really would make it better for everybody. And we can still build the apartments that the people need because we do have a growing population. But why can't we do that in a different location that's not being used for anything else? When we can enjoy that for its public space, for, you know, the music and people showing up, and what it's been for years and what I remember as a kid. And I remember the park's open blocks when I was little, and I really would appreciate it for it to stay the same. And I know that most of the people I've talked to, I haven't heard very many people that were for it. But thank you for listening and giving me your time.
Thank you. Scott Landfield is next, followed by Wayne Martin.
Well, I'm Scott Lampfield, and I'm in Betty's ward, and I just wanted to say that I've filled out all the paperwork for running for mayor, and I'm intending to turn it in this week. I want to extend the election process into November. One thing that I'm a strong believer in is saving Kesey Square. I've heard a lot of good ideas from a lot of people. There's a lot of talk. We can always get top dollar from that square if we ever want it down the line. It's historically people have wanted it. I wanted to talk about a little something that happened to me today at Kesey Square. I own a bookstore, and it's a very peaceful place, and customer service very important. As customer service is so important, number one is safety. And we've had this guy come in 2 days in a row yesterday. He was high on heroin, passed out in the back, and that's, you know, it's just not welcome in there. I'm sorry, you know, it's not. And I asked him very politely to leave. He went berserk. I think he was mixing his drugs, and I just walked ahead of him out the door, and he followed me right behind me, and then I walked him off the property. He showed up this morning with a big cane. There were two elderly ladies and my 26-year-old clerk at the counter, and I was mopping up after a wonderful folk concert last night. I was in the back mopping the floor. This guy goes berserk, and he's swinging the cane. He's going to kill me, on, the stories, you know, the babble. And I slowly walked towards him. He'd take 5 steps back, 3 steps forward, 5 steps back, 3 steps forward. All the way down the block, he threw a cup of coffee at me, which is here, and, you know, menacing. Everybody in the neighborhood called 911. Police cars were ripping down there, you know. I took off chasing after him after he went running, found out where he was headed, directed the police. It was all good. The police were there. They were very helpful, very nice guys, and they didn't find him. I thought, I had the afternoon off. I thought, I'm going to go take a look because I know where I think he is. And sure enough, sorry to say, he was in Kesey Square. And about an hour later, 8 policemen had him down. He went berserk on the first couple of policemen. And I'll be filing charges tomorrow. I did have a wonderful experience with all the police guys, and particularly the bicycle police. And I see, like you're talking about having the bicycle share and the bicycle police. Let's make that square safe. Safety first there, you know?
Thank you. Wayne Martin is next, followed by Daniel Costello.
Good evening, Mr. City Manager, Madam Mayor, honorable councilors. I admire you for sticking it out and for listening and being receptive. It's been a long time. Well done. I also am well aware of how much time you've put into discussing and seeking solutions for our considerable homeless problem here in Eugene. I want to redouble an effort to get you to be, in these coming months, March, April, and May, even more vigilant than you have been, even more imaginative than you have been. And I think it would save the city a lot of money if you could bend and move your brains and your hearts. I have an idea that you could get the business community far more involved if you were just a little more innovative. I think it would be a good idea for you to begin a program that would invite business owners and commercial property owners to provide small portions of their land holdings. And you should incentivize them to do that by, one, offering them a kind of tax rebate on the value that you agree to of the property. If need be, you could also involve St. Vincent de Paul, which has a very good reputation in the business community, so that if they donate a certain portion of their property to house no more than 10 people, they would perhaps get a tax write-off and making a donation to St. Vinny's. Terry McDonald would be happy to work with you on that idea. You want to locate more and more people outside the downtown, and you want to consider that they could have safe places and useful places to be. Most homeless people are not criminals. They don't commit crimes. You can look at the blotters. The ones who do, the people here who are repeated offenders generally are not homeless. So homeless folks can be used as a resource, and we need them to do it. I wish there were more to speak here tonight, because it would do you well to listen to them and the way they make their everyday lives. But some of them are too scared, and some are too hopeless to be here.
Thank you.
I think you can change that.
Thank you. Daniel Costello is next, followed by Drix.
Hello, how you doing? Thank you for letting me speak. I'm from New York City. I'm a member of the Electric Bureau of the World, IBEW, Local 3. I came to this city thinking maybe I'll move out here. This is a pretty progressive city from what I've heard. It's a place for open minds. It's a place for open spaces, people to gather, talk about how they feel. And when I heard that the square was going to be closed, I said to myself, well, this ain't really a progressive city, huh? They want to close down the spaces, open up a couple of more boutiques and condos for people that aren't really open-minded, are they? They want to close down open spaces for people to congregate. How open-minded can they be? The seriousness of this topic cannot be expressed in a public forum. I'm normally not a big fan of bureaucracy, but I figured I'd come out here and talk anyway. They close down that square, what's going to happen next? What else are they going to close down? What other rights are they going to take away from us? I understand that this is not a democracy we live in, it's a republic. I speak because I want to be heard. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Drix, you're up. Followed by Steve Brigman.
Hey, Eugene. My name is Drix. It really is. It always has been. And I'm really glad to be here. Thank you. Don't play with the mic. I've been coming here for a lot of years, and I've always tried to push the envelope in thinking. Then I go home and I replay what I say, and I watch it on the internet. And thank you for making this available, and on the cable systems, and it's just everywhere. This is like another square here. And it's taken me long enough to get relaxed here. I realize I can't read notes. I just talk, gesundheit. So I wanted to bring a gift here. I wanted to just change things. It's a new year. We got the new future coming, and I have a feeling it's going to give us all new results. So I want to just encourage everyone to think new. So I wanted to bring a gift, and I thought, what kind of gift can I give you, Gene? And so what kind of a gift can I push through this microphone? Can come out those little speakers while someone's on the couch? What could be useful? And then I thought, a new idea. Yeah, that doesn't take a lot. So I've been pondering it in my own life, and I finally realized that the simple thing to do for all of us is just to realize that everything we know is wrong. And it's everything, which makes it kind of easy to understand. And what's important in this new line of thinking? Well, everything. Everything. Me, you all, the timer there, it just all counts. And we can rethink it into a new way, because as we run out of fuel and water, our daily routines are going to change quick. Already with watering the lawns in California. I live in the U District with a lot of fresh thoughts, and my neighbor came out and his lawn was getting brown, and I said, you know, we're going to have to stop watering soon. He says, oh, don't worry, they're automatic. So I realized that was just a wonderful answer, went over the whole thing. So, all right, the simple concept that we can do in Eugene is to think of new ways of being. Let's see, it's easier to act a new way of feeling than it is to think a new way of being. And I think I have that right. So I just want the concept that there's you, which is you are council and you are city and you are me, our Drix. Maybe that's all there really is. Maybe instead of us all being different people with different attitudes and thinking, we are all the same person. The same life form, organism. So that means bigotry, racism, anger, even the law. We have to rethink all that because it's all about us. And that kind of might make it easier to all live together. And Eugene's miles ahead of everyone. Kilometers, pardon me, ahead of everyone. And that's all I have to say. And here I am at the end, and I thank you.
Thank you. Last up is Steve Brigham.
Hi, Steve Brigham. I'm honored to close this amazing night out. I'd like to just say that Eugene is an amazing city, and it's unique and special because of one reason, and that's the people that live here and the open spaces where these amazing philosophers and artists can gather and commune together. And don't take any more of that away. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. That was right to it. Yes. I'm going to close the forum and thank everybody for coming tonight, and thank you all for your caring about our community. I heard one person say that we were making the proposal for the development. We're not. We're just listening. And I wanted to say that the win-win that was spoken about, although we had varying renditions of what a win-win might be, but all the ones that I heard, it did not include filling in the plaza. I heard, in my case, it was, is there something that you can take these three ideas, can you bring in Imani's property and open it to the plaza? Can you build housing above that? And can you keep the plaza open and keep it public in perpetuity? So that was one of the sort of win-win proposals about how we might get some housing built, how we might keep the public space open, and how we might all get to a win-win instead of shouting at each other across the city. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to mention the one young lady who's still here that because you don't see them, we do get emails from all different sides of this discussion. We've received, I would estimate, hundreds and hundreds in support of some of the proposals to build things on the square as well. So I would say it's probably, my perception is that it is about even in terms of what I've received. So I don't know if that's meaningful to you, but what I heard you say, I wanted to give you my experience.
The only other thing I would add to the conversation tonight is that even though there may be buildings that are empty downtown, we don't own them.
Yeah.
And it's up, the people who own those properties get to make the decisions about their properties. So thank you all. Good night.